I wrote this book. It's called Cut Your Drug Costs. All right. And I sold this ebook and I didn't make a lot of money on it though. I spent like 6 months writing. Vikram, I'll ask you, how much money do you think I made on that book in my first month?
What if you could reclaim hours of free time each week, create legacy building wealth, and devote more energy to your passion projects without giving up on your career as a life-saving MD? Dr. Vikram Raya is a functional cardiologist, high-performance coach, and real estate expert, is here to give you the tools, strategies, and solutions you need to transform your life, unlock your limitless potential, and achieve greatness, all while freeing up your precious time. Welcome to Limitless MD. Let's dive in.
All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Limitless MD. I'm your host, Vikram Raya, and today I have a good friend, a good guest. His name is Dr. Mike Woo-Ming. He is one of the OGs or the original gangsters of the freedompreneur, or the doctor who stepped outside of medicine to really define and really enjoy a phenomenal life. And I consider him a friend. I consider him a high-powered coach. I consider him a mentor. I consider him an entrepreneur. And I consider him a master of marketing. So I really want you guys to lean into this episode and gain the pearls that this man's about to drop. So let's get into it, Mike. Welcome to the show, man.
Vikram, honored to be here. Thanks for allowing me the time.
Yeah. You are one of those archetype limitless MDs out there. And what made you have the courage to do some of these first ventures?
The courage that I got, and I can tell you exactly what brought me to where I wanted to be. But I remember working in the hospital, and again, like Vikram, I said yes to everything. So I said, oh, you can take extra call. Okay, sure, I'll do that. And being the low man on the totem pole, the youngest man in the group, it just so happens they tended to get call on Christmas and Thanksgiving. We were a group where we were primary care and we didn't have a hospitalist system, so we were taking call. Like, it was a tough call. It's like it wasn't easier than residency. It's actually, I think, actually worse because we had like 12 admissions a night. We were tapped out. But I remember being on call, and it was on Christmas morning, and I met I knew of another doctor who worked with us. He kind of shared call, but he had a solo practice. He was in his 60s, but he looked like he was in his 80s.
Oh my God.
And yeah, and he was in the ER. We're both working up a patient. I was asking, hey, Dr. X, why are you here? Shouldn't be with your family on a Christmas morning. He says, well, Mike, if you work holiday call, you get make an extra $350 on holiday call. And I'm like, man, I said to myself, man, you don't look so good. And I was like, is this what I want my life to be? In the future, this is a guy. He's, looks older than his stated age, not in the best of health. He unfortunately passed away a few years ago. But I was like, is that what my life I want to be? Like 20, 30 years, knowing that if I work holiday, I'll make an extra $350. And I go, I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be that. That's not how my career, where I wanted to see myself. So that led me into extra streams of income, side gigs. And I said, what can I do to explore? At the time I didn't know much about real estate other than I owned my own house. I looked at things like multi-level marketing, didn't really float my boat, not something I was interested in. But because of the lessons that I learned from my medical advice site, I said, there's something to this internet. And Vikram, this is the days, this is like 2003, right? There's very little things going on. There is no website makers. I built my own website. I learned HTML. I learned how to do that myself. And I remember I bought a book. It was called Make My Site Sell. It was written by actually an ER doctor. His name was Ken Evoy back in the day. And it was basically how to make your site more profitable. So I was trying to get marketing tips for my own website. And just so happens I buy this book. I buy another book called Multiple Streams of Income. Also another book called Multiple Streams of Internet Income. And I was like, wow, this is opening my eyes, because all I learned was if I need to make more money, I need to see more patients. That was the only thing that I learned to do. But then, by having my website, I learned leveraging, I learned about marketing, I said, I want to learn more about these things. So I buy all these books. I remember I bought one online book. I was at Making Money Online, and just so happens I get on their email list, and they said, "Hey, we're having a conference in Las Vegas called the Internet Marketing Super Conference, and we're going to meet all these guys who are making millions of dollars." And I go, "Oh, yeah, right. As most, this is a scam, whatever." I then happen to get on, just so happens I get on all these different lists. I sign up for the speakers list, and then they're talking to me. And then I go to this, they say, you know what? I'm gonna go on a conference. I'm just gonna tell them, my boss, I'm just gonna go to a conference. I may have even said it was a medical conference, but it was a conference. But it was not a medical conference. I didn't get any CME. It was an internet business conference. And they're speaking are some names you may have heard of: Ryan Dice, Jeff Walker. This is one of his first speaking engagements. Um, these are guys, I learned Frank Kern became a mentor of mine. He's also big in that area. And it just opened my eyes to a group of people, many of whom, maybe they graduated high school, many of them didn't grade college. They were millionaires. And I befriended one of the speakers who was a millionaire who was making a lot of his money online. And I said, I want to do what you do.
Wait a minute.
Somehow
I want to just
yeah,
stop there, guys.
sure.
That question, he befriended a speaker who's already where he wants to be and
Yeah.
asked him, hey, I want to be where you are. And essentially you asked for help and mentorship and guidance.
Right. Right. It's funny. I go to a lot of masterminds, and I have many different mentors, including yourself. And an advice that he said kind of resonated with me is to find people who are old, wealthy, and happy, and do the same thing they're doing.
Yes, I like it.
It's so simple, but it makes sense. And he wasn't old, but he was wealthy, and he was happy. And he talked to me about the internet, and again early on. And these are days when, if I could go back in those days, you could get an ad, and you could put an ad, you would pay 10 cents to get on Google, for an ad.
Yeah.
And so I started to build businesses that went online, and I started to create what were known as information products. So I created little digital ebooks. This is before Kindle and came out. So, my mentor taught me, he says, write about what you know. And I said, well, I know medicine. And then he says, well, are there things in medicine that people want to know? And he said, what are the questions that you get every day? And back then, just probably in here, I says, every people are always asking me, like, how they can save money on their medical bill. The medical bill is too expensive. So I wrote a book, and it was called, and I learned all these different things about, how you could save money, like choosing generics over brand name, choosing different health cards that could save money. And I wrote this book. It's called Cut Your Drug Costs. And I sold this ebook, and I didn't make a lot of money on it, though. I spent like 6 months writing. Vikram, I'll ask you, how much money do you think I made on that book in my first month?
$10.
Oh, come on. I'm one of your coaches.
No, okay, let's call it $1,000.
No, so it was $20 book.
Yeah, how much was it?
$20.
Okay.
From 1995 or 1997.
Okay.
And I made $60 that first month.
Okay.
But, someone say, well, that's a failure. You spent 6 months writing. I mean, if it wasn't about pictures, it would probably be like 40-page book. But the thing is, I made that money while I was sleeping.
Yes. No,
that's
it's that first proof of concept. Hey,
yeah,
I've been able now, like I created something once and it will keep paying over and over, whether I touch it or not, as long as there's like some ad flow into the funnel. So I think that's the concept. And so let's translate that, because where you are now is so much more, and the journey is just amazing. So let's really talk about it. So you've done so many different things, and you've done so many different professions, almost careers, in fact. And so you really are a Renaissance man that started as a physician, but you've ended up as this, really powerful coach, investor, entrepreneur, and all the other things I talked about. But what still drives you first to move forward, And number two, now that you've been in this space for a while, what's going to be some of the advice you have for the younger doctors coming in?
I think what moves me. I mean, there's a lot of things for me. First and foremost, it's my family, so, and that's what drove everything. I didn't mention, but I have a child with special needs. He's an adult now. He's doing great, and I wanted to be there for him. And that's why I actually, when I started these internet companies, that's what drove me to actually retire from medicine for several years. I got back into medicine because I love medicine, and I started up my own practices. But I've always enjoyed working with other physicians because I see, as you see, so much straits out there in terms of like doctors seeing declining reimbursements. We're smart, but seems each time more and more is taking away from our paycheck. And even with COVID, I never thought we would have doctors who actually would go on furlough. I never thought that was even possible. And so I get really excited working with other doctors and helping them to get what help them with their goals. That's why a big part of me is coaching and seeing this. But in terms of like what actually moves me, I mean, be honest, I don't need more stuff. I've got a nice house. I've got you know a nice car. Got a family. But it's all about the generational wealth. Like what can I bring to them? So um, my purpose now is kind of like building up my practices, building my businesses. But as in any business, you'd always just think about selling your business. And what I learned in terms of people who are like what they consider the ultra wealthy, people are making 30 million over a year. Where they make most of their money is a liquidity event. So they've sold something that's big. Sure, you're going to make your money as a business owner. Profits come in, profit and loss statement. You're going to make some. Where they're actually making it and where they can sell it for a bigger multiple is a business. Selling it at a higher multiple, selling real estate. That's where they're getting their big chunk of money. So that's kind of like what pushes me is having that generational wealth. Because for my son, unfortunately, he's not going to be able to work on his own. But I want to, and I've only got so many years on this planet. I want to be able to give him that. So, and for my other son, so when he has his family, they have something that they can, grow and thrive with.
So let's talk about this concept. So, private equity is on pretty much everyone's forefront now, as they've really made a huge push into the medical space, and they're starting to buy clinics. They're starting to roll these clinics up. The typical PE formula, basically buy like kind businesses, remove inefficiencies, optimize operations, and then drive up NOI growth or income growth, and then sell at a multiple. So instead of them playing that game to us as physicians, how can we play the game where we can really make our practices sellable to private equity on our terms? And really, what makes a clinic a sellable asset versus a pain in the butt that you just have to walk away from, or quote unquote sell your charts to somebody, which no one will pay anything for nowadays?
Yeah, and I think it's because, I had that business mindset. Don't get me wrong, I didn't get an MBA. This is the school of hard knocks. Owning a business. I think the best way that you can actually know about learning a business is paying for payroll every couple of weeks. It's definitely going to keep you aware of that, and that's something I don't think an MBA can ever replicate, of actually doing it and being responsible for the people that you employ and to help them with their families. But in terms of like business, and we know the state of private practice, we know there are more non-physicians owning practices than physicians. Private practice ownership by doctors are declining each and every year. And the reason that they do is because, just think of my solo practitioner friend who I met many years ago. When he sold when he had his practice, he passed away, the practice closed. It didn't sell. And those are like most practices. Because if you want to, when you're looking to sell your house, you have to make sure you get the most. You have to put and you're the expert in real estate. You have to make sure you've got that curb appeal. You want to make sure that what what is the seller mind like? What can I do to optimize, my house when I sell it? There are certain things that you need to have, or other things that you may not have. And it's the same thing in your practice. So when I had my practice, I think one thing that I've done early on is I took myself out of the practice. I took myself out of the practice, and I wanted to make sure that the business could run on its own, because that make them attractive to whoever you're selling it, but normally to private equity. If you have what most practices have is the doctor, the owner, is usually the one seeing all the patients. Well, when you're selling that practice, the doctor isn't going to come with that practice, or they may have it where they're working it for 10 years. That's how most of them work. But when I see in my area, for example, like aesthetics, the plastic surgery practices don't sell because you got to pay the plastic surgeon. What sells is the med spa. If they have a med spa component of it, that's one where they can hire the nurse practitioner or the PA. The PA comes with it, the RN, or they have devices that make money, with an operator, with a laser technician, et cetera. Because those are the ones that is making the money. And private equity, let's face it, we're all in it here to make money. And they want, when I learned about, I played a little bit in the franchise game early on, and I learned a lot about franchise owners. And, I worked with a company called Massage Envy. It was a big massage
Yeah.
franchise. Yeah. And what I learned from them is like these people who buy these things, they don't buy like one Massage Envies. They buy like 10 Massage Envies. They buy 15 Dunkin' Donuts. They buy 20 car washes. Because at the end of the day, all they care about is, if they're going to buy a service-oriented business, is that they invested something is going to happen, that a service is going to be provided, and at the end they make more money. So that's what they're looking for in terms of like what they're buying. To be honest, we saw this. They're in dermatology before they were in dentistry. That's really actually kind of what they're looking at, and looking for a model that can be replicated.
So one is a replicatable model, and I would say, I think you are hinting at this, but I'm just going to just say it so our audience really understands it.
Sure.
It is the reason why plastic surgery solopreneurship is not as exciting as this practice surgery solopreneurship with the med spa, is because the magic sauce is that surgeon. So if you can essentially have it where you can still have a surgeon and you can still sell a practice, but it doesn't have to be the surgeon. It can be a surgeon. And so really getting rid of any kind of secret sauce of the owner, the founder, right? Where you want to make it more cogs that you can replicate and replace as needed. And then I guess not recycle, but more, I would say it's recurring revenue is the key. Recurring. Predictable revenue is one of the fundamental tenets to making your practice sellable.
Correct. For example, in the aesthetics market, familiar with like Botox and fillers, those are usually people who are coming in for Botox. They're coming in every 3, maybe 4 months. And so what they're looking for is, do you have patients that are coming in, 300, 500, whatever? Are they coming in on a recurring level? For practices like, for like, let's say you're going to get bariatric surgery, for example, they're probably going to have it like one surgery in their life, and they're gone. They're not really interested in that type of model. They're looking for, like as a Massage Envy, they're coming in once a month. With car washes, you have a membership. Are they coming in? Is there a membership model to it? That's what they're looking for. They want sustainable, predictable, recurring revenue.
Right. And things that are not going to be disrupted by perhaps AI, government regulations, economic cycles as much. They're looking for these kind of things. So replicatable, there shouldn't be a special owner or a special like magic thing for it to run. And the way, if you are in a clinic like this and you really want to see if you truly have something sellable, go on vacation for a month. If your revenue drops, if there's problems that arise, there's no SOP, there's no automations, there's no systems in place, then it's not sellable. And it's as simple as that. And I think, Mike, you and I would have to agree, they should probably run some type of operating system, right? A lot of franchises have a operating system. They have a way of doing business. The Chick-fil-A way, the Walmart way, the something even higher end. Like you were telling me about that, some of these franchise stories recently, like, but even the medical franchises, they have a sort of way of doing things like the massage envies. There's a protocol. So is there a way that there's a system ABCD strategy where some random person who doesn't have to be in your profession, but they're just a savvy business person can run your protocol and replicate your same business model without you being there? And if that's the case, that is successful.
Exactly. And some doctors kind of cringe or when I tell them this is I don't see many patients. Um, we're like in the midway of this month. I haven't seen a patient this month. Hopefully the medical board is listening. But I have nurse practitioners. I have four nurse practitioners and one PA who sees the patient. So we do aesthetics. We're doing weight loss. I'm available, of course, at a moment's notice, but I am not seeing patients because if I'm seeing the patients, it's time for money, right? And that's what we try to teach, our physicians is we've all done time for money. But if your business is based upon you seeing as many patients as you do, you need to think about other different models. It's about building more income that makes money, like my example of why you sleep or why you're doing other different things, because there'll always be a level that you can grow. You can't scale that. And if you want to get to the level that you want, as many of the listeners do, you have to be able to make money without you actually doing all the work.
Yeah, and I know a few surgeons who can probably hit, or like few surgeons or some other medical professionals that go greater than $1 million a year, but really high six figures is usually the cap on trading hours for dollars. In my opinion, there's probably again 5% of the doctors who can make more than that, still trading hours for dollars, but in general, 95% of doctors, their cap is in that six-figure range. It could be still a very high figures, but that's the case. And then in most cases, when physicians go on vacation, unless they're employed, which is a different business model we're not talking about, but if they own a clinic, they lose money when they go on vacation. That is typically what we see. So if now let's say they do all of these things we talked about, they automate the systems, the protocols, the automations, the business operating systems, they create an org chart, they have team members, employees, everyone is operating, and there's a practice manager who really runs the thing, and then they're able to take themselves off. They're owners and not operators, and they put another physician in their place, and so now they're really more of a CEO, and they're able to have a stable and actually slightly increasing revenue year after year. Now they potentially could be ready to find a buyer, maybe a private equity. Walk us through what that looks like, Mike.
So I can tell you just in my experience, because there are different, medical practices. For example, in the aesthetics market, a typical med spa is making maybe 1.5 to 2.5 million a year. Um, if they were to sell that one business, would have, it's called EBITDA, and I always forget
Yeah.
get the abbreviation,
It's
but
essentially,
essentially profits.
it's
Yeah,
like earnings before taxes, debt, insurance, and something like that. But bottom line is it's
right.
profit. It's what it really means is it's your real profit.
Correct, right. And so if they were to buy it, they would probably buy it on maybe 1.5 EBITDA. So if you're making 1.52 million profit, you might get 2.5 million. And that's great. But if you create a replicatable model, my mentor asked me, says, you're doing well. Couldn't you just do that in a different location? And I said, well, yeah, there's no reason why I can't do that. And so, yes, there's cost to doing that, but if you know your metrics, you know your SOPs, and you truly believe that it is scalable, there's no reason you can't do it in another location. And so when you do that, when it's come to doing, 3, 5, 10, instead of getting 1 to 1.5 EBITDA, you might be getting 3x, 5x, 10x. you know so if you're doing, you know let's say you have 5 clinics doing 2 million, you're getting 10 million, you might get 80 million, 60, 50, 100 million, on it. Why do they do that? Because private equity, there's different levels of private equity. Would they rather work with 10 individual owners, or they would rather work with one owner who's got 10 locations and paying them in higher multiple? And you show that your system is replicatable. That's much more valuable to them. and you're going to make more in the process.
Yeah, and it's similar in real estate, guys. Look, you can buy one single family home, which is great. That's nice. Or you can buy a quad, which is good. That's four units, quadplex. Or you could buy 100 unit, and everything is consolidated. You have professional property management. It's easier to get debt, and the value of that is driven now by the actual income and not by the owner or whoever or the comps even. And so what that means is it's we actually institutions, investors, private equity, people actually like to write bigger checks because they want a bigger impact. They want actually more returns, and they want simplification of the whole process. The bigger it is, in fact, the easier it is. And there's a book that really talks about a lot of this. Me and Mike are sharing here. It's really, 10x is easier than 2x. And this is by Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan, the founder of Strategic Coach. And really, this is that concept, guys. Bigger is better in many cases. But you got to do it in an intelligent way. You got to do it in a strategic way. And probably you want to start with the end in mind when you get started, similar to what Mike is doing, right? Mike, can you tell us a little bit about some of the businesses you're running?
So my practice, my main practice is a aesthetic practice, a wellness practice. We do hormones, we do a weight loss. It's all cash, and yeah, and it's doing well. So now my goal is to continue to replicate, that model. So, most of my profits are put on to start up the next clinic. And then we're always trying to, we could always do better. There's always things that we could improve. It's interesting. You'd mentioned AI. There are things that we can be incorporating in AI that can help us. Payroll is the biggest expense for any type of business. But what I love about the business is, unlike COVID, here in California, we were shut down primarily, because it wasn't considered an essential business. But it was, don't tell that to my patients when their Botox was due. And it was one of the few types of businesses that survived and thrived after COVID. As we see in retail, we have, shopping malls that are, nearly empty.
Yeah, they're ghost
and
towns.
we see they're ghost towns. Amazon and big, Walmart, they're all kind of taking over. At least in this space, and knock on wood so far, this can't be completely replicable. You still have, if you want to get a touch up, you still got to see somebody. Maybe in the future
you can
be
get a
robot.
digital touch up, but that and then if you go in person, you still need to have someone shove a needle in your face to get that Botox in there, unless they have some home kits, which I don't know about yet. So exactly, these are things that are not going to be outsourced anytime soon. So it's almost, relatively recession resistant. So these are the kind of things that are like, you need to go to a dentist no matter what. There's no way you're going to get around not going to a dentist. So, and it's great because yours is cash based. So again, if your marketing is better, if the look and the feel is better, the referrals are better, if you know how to turn the lead generation lever up, then you can essentially create your own profit margin on this thing. And it's great. And then he has 3 clinics. I think he's starting his 4th. He may have 7 or 8 in the next couple of years. I mean, it's great. This is how you grow. This is how you scale. And then, what are the potential exits? Like, for someone like you, Mike, or a similar, let's say a person there's a doctor with 6 clinics of some sort. Perhaps it's a vascular surgeon, or maybe it's a plastic surgeon, or maybe it's an orthopedist or something. Like when you have 6, 7, 8, what happens then?
Yeah, that's interesting. It goes that way we talked about. Is a clinic making money, when you're not there? I think that is kind of the litmus test. I do see this where a doctor, a surgeon, he says, I have 3 locations. But what he doesn't tell you is he has to drive to all 3 locations. And he's just making, he's just doing 3 times as much work. Are there services that you can bring that don't require you? And now what we see, and again, I know that this is kind of like, people don't like it, but there are many practices that are run by, quote unquote, mid-level providers. It's happening in my state. It's happening there. It's already happening as well. I still feel that a physician should be at least leading that. In my practices, I teach and I educate and I trust the work that my providers do. They do an excellent job. It shows in our reviews and shows on awards that we've won. So it's going to happen anyway. And I still feel physicians should be at the top of the health. It's just now we're looking for which physicians are going to step up to take that lead because there's a lot of opportunity. I try to be an optimist and see it the glass is half full. And I think if more physicians take that lead, they can be in charge of a patient's health. And there's still patients who want that. And that's where the direction that I see. So hopefully if somebody's listening, they're ready to take charge.
So Mike, I want to take it one step further. Guys, we're not saying just give everything out to the mid-levels or anything like that. Look, you can have the mid-levels intelligently being utilized in your practice. And there should be a doctor. What we're saying is that doctor does not have to be you.
Yep.
That is the most powerful thing I want you to say. Oh, but I really love medicine. No one's saying not to practice. Practice for the fun of it. Have a fun day, half-day clinic, or have a 2 days a week just for the fun of it. But let's say you're on vacation in Europe, in Italy, in the Positano for a month. There should be no drop in revenue. Because the real physicians, when I mean real physician, that means that the day in, the day out physician, the one who clock in and clock out, the W-2 physician is taking the brunt of the work. And you're the CEO, founder physician who's practicing medicine for fun. That's what we're saying. So then you can wrap up your 7, 8, 9, 10 clinics to a hospital system, private equity or whatever. And the last thing is we talked about ortho and things like that, like these ortho docs, right? They also have options. Like they can start a regenerative medicine practice, which can be done by PAs or NPs that are overseen perhaps by a physician. Doesn't even have to be an ortho physician. Maybe it could be an internal medicine physician that's in an ortho practice, just managing the NPs and PAs. So it's thinking outside the box. It's thinking about leverage. It's thinking about how do I use all these levers. And, what I learned from Naval Ravikant and also from Alex Hormozi and some of these really big thinkers in sort of the business and medicine space are there's 4 levers you can pull. And Mike has really eloquently talked about a lot of the levers. The first lever we know is labor, right? Getting other people, right? First, you're a solo guy. Then you hire a front desk. Then you hire a practice manager. Then you hire admin. Then you hire a first NP. Then you hire an MA, right? Labor's great. That's great. Next is capital, right? Either you can start reinvesting your own money into your practice to make it grow. You can take a SBA loan. You can get a medical loan, a bank loan, friends and family loan, right? Outside equity or capital. The third way is, or investors as you get bigger. Third way is unlevered and levered permissions in the digital space. So what I mean is code and eyeballs. So in code, there's 2 ways. There's actual code. You can actually code things if you know how to do that, and that can help. Perhaps you create a breakthrough technology that helps, automate a lot of your processes in your clinic, or you know how to use code, more language-based code, which is AI now with these LLMs, large language models, and that's very powerful. And then the final way is eyeballs. So what we mean by Mike and I are saying this is the media. It's are you savvy in social media? Do you know how to market? Do you know how to gain attention? And when you do that, then you're able to drive things up. And so drive people to your clinic, drive people to your ancillary services, drive referrals, testimonials, etc. So if you can pull these 4 main levers we talked about, which is code, media, capital, and labor, you can go beyond the typical realm of physician, which is a 6-figure cap.
I love it. I love it. And it's daunting. Nobody says it's easy, but it's just like anything. It's just skills that you need to learn. If you want to become the best surgeon, what are you going to do? You're going to shadow the surgeons. So if you want to be the best entrepreneur, the best practice owner, shadow successful practice owners. It's an exciting time. It can be a frightening time, but that's why, as entrepreneurs, you have to accept risk. And for many that you're not able to do it, but it's the ones who are going to thrive and able to use fear and to use it in the right way. They can become a limitless MD.
That's awesome. So, Mike, what's sort of the best way for them to get into your ecosystem and become like a Freedom 5 doc? What's I think the website I believe is freedom5doc.com.
freedom5doc.com. And if you want to join, I'm one of the coaches. I may even know the founder of that. I forgot his name. Nice guy, nice guy. But yeah, and we'd love for you to become part of it. If this is something that maybe, something like I said, that resonated with you, maybe you're in a situation right now and you're kind of going through the motions and want to know what else can I do. I never like the thing is like, I'm just a doctor. That's the only thing I've learned. Don't let those restraints hold you down. You can really do anything that you want. You just got to put your mind to it and get what you want, because no one's going to do it for us. And as physicians, we're great. What we do is it's physicians helping other physicians to get them where they want to be.
That's awesome, Mike. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for sharing all your wisdom and knowledge. Thanks for being like an amazing coach to all these young physicians out there who are just getting ready to become the new breed of doctors, who are really ready to embrace the freedoms, practice on their own terms, and really not have to sacrifice between wealth and family, not having to have sacrifice between love of medicine and love of business. They can do it all.
Yeah, and they don't have to be young too. We have young, we have middle,
Yeah.
we have old OGs
we have,
like myself. Yeah,
I say young in heart. Like if you're
exactly.
from 30 to 70, come on down.
Come on down.
All right.
Vikram, was a pleasure. Much enjoyed it.
Thank you, guys. All right, guys. Until next time, be phenomenal.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Limitless MD. If you found value from this episode, I encourage you to share this episode with a friend and let me know by leaving a review. For more information, make sure you check out the links in the show notes below or simply visit vikramraya.com. Until next time, be phenomenal.